what you do is you go around the little soccer field and make your way into the woods, and you find, I believe it's like a 3.5 mile loop, but it's broken into 2 sections. And the first section's great with kids, nothing really major there, just one optional drop. The longer side features the Log Ness Monster. We're gonna start off with the short side, and that begins on the right with the most difficult and steepest short little punch climb of the whole thing. Here we go. And from there, things get easier. There's a couple uphill berms, but pretty flowy. So, given that this is a pretty long trail, I'm just gonna show you the highlights. And I'll start off with an optional drop in a little bit. See you then. So after the third turn, there's an optional drop over here on the left-hand side. Check it out. Oh yeah. Another little swoop over here too. Woo! Then more climbing. So near the end of the short side of ZACK'S Fork, the short loop, there's a pretty rocky section, and that is your cue to initiate what I'm calling the coasting challenge. So when you get to the rock section, there's a little downhill berm, and you do have to pedal a little bit after it. But the subsequent berm, which is over there, you have to stop pedaling, and at that point you just coast and see how far you can go. Sometimes I'm able to get as far as the next side, like crossing the little street and getting to the next side of the trail. So we'll see how I do today, but post in the comments below with your result. The idea here is you get to pedal, if you want, from the rock section. You hit the first berm, which is a fun one, and you can pedal here. But once you get to the next berm, or shortly before it if you want, you lay off. So here we go. Pump this. Slowing down. But I think as long as I can make it up this next little section without pedaling, yes. Now we get a little more downhill. Yeah. And you cross over, that's the exit over on the left. Over on the right is a walking trail to an aquatic center. So I made it into the next side, but not the first big tree. So I stopped coasting here at this little root formation on the long side. So if you can comment with a picture or a description of where you ended, that'll give me a chance to try to challenge you back. Good luck. Okay, so I'm on the long side of ZACK'S Fork's loop, and you can probably hear a crow in the background. That is your cue, you're on the long side. I swear, over half the time that I'm on the long side, of ZACK'S Fork, there's like one really loud crow. If you're a local, you know what I'm talking about. And it just stands there squawking all day. But enough about the crow. What I wanted to hip you to is a little swoop in the trail that's got a lot of rocks on it. It can really mess you up. So this is about 1/10 of a mile in, after really not much time, but it's the first kind of downhill swoop you have. And the rocks are pointy and they're not really creating any kind of bridge. So it's something to look out for. You can do it. I've done it on a hardtail, but they're just kind of something to sneak up on you if you're not. So look at this. Oh boy. Yeah. I mean, even on a full suspension bike, like, that is painful. So that's at the beginning of the long side of ZACK'S Fork. I'm gonna be climbing for a little bit, so I'll catch up with you in a little while. Still here on the long side of ZACK'S Fork. And after you get past people's backyards, which happens over there, you are finished with a pretty, you know, flowy and undulating, but substantial climb. And you finally get to a little downhill section. It's not the real downhill. This is the first of two kind of fake out downhills, but it is fun and you can get going pretty fast. So check this out. Here comes a big swoop. And then more downhill. And another rocky section. Ooh. Just like the one at the beginning of the long side that can throw you. Then it's back to the climb. A little ways afterward on the long side of ZACK'S Fork, you'll get to a section that feels like you're at the top of the mountain. And there's a couple of rocks to signify the beginning of the second faux downhill. I don't say faux downhill because it's not downhill, it's not the last one. This one starts off with some nice berms and some rocks. It's a little bit more rowdy than the last one, so check it out. Oh yeah. Stop that. Yeah, just overall more rocky in this section. Not terribly so. steep one. Then back to the climb. So if you haven't been to ZACK'S Fork in a couple years, then you've missed out on the new feature, which is right behind me, called the Log Ness Monster. Check it out. This is a super long, skinny. Starts off with wood planks that are spaced out far enough that little rattly. The hardest thing for me is the transition. It's super steep into the log, but sweet sign, Log Ness Monster. And if you can make it down this without falling, you've got a really well done log skinny here. And what I think is maybe the coolest aspect of it is that it actually goes through another log, if you see down here. So there was a fallen tree and they cut out of the middle of it, put another bridge, which is really well made. And then for max terror, there's a really steep end where you have to climb, and it's probably the skinniest part. So if you think you made it across the log and you've won, no, more challenge ahead. So I'm gonna give it a shot. It is super challenging. I would venture to say probably the most challenging trail feature in the high country. I'll give it a shot, and fingers crossed. All right, here goes nothing. No.
It was at this moment that he knew.
After the Log Ness Monster comes the real downhill. Several switchbacks in a row, and just when you think you're down, you actually end up doing 2 switchbacks uphill to go back downhill, which is a little weird, but it ends off with a skinny that I know that I actually can master. So looking forward to that. Rock hook. Ooh, yeah. That was a bad cornering for me. There we go. Woo! Rocky. Now, you know, if you go the other way, you've got to climb all these. Don't recommend that. Although the downhill at the end, if you go the opposite direction, is actually pretty sweet. But the climb is just not worth it. So now I'll start climbing uphill. See you again at the end with the skinny on the Pit of Sarkoon. After the 2 uphill berms, the second of which is really steep toward the end, you get the last sustained downhill. And it's really fun because you get to deal with there's like a wooden box, and then there's that skinny, which we'll see. But you can really fly here. And it's tight and twisty, so it makes the speed feel like even more than it is. Just got to be careful for people coming the other direction. And here comes the cool little wood box. A little Rudy section. And then the pit of Sarkoon. Whew, made it. Check it out. I was a little off balance on it actually. Not a long skinny, not too bad, but you do not want to fall off that. So I made it. That means I can tell my friends, well, there's two skinnies and one got me, but you know, got the other, so round up. Anyway, that's just about it for ZACK'S Fork here in Lenoir, North Carolina. Overall impression is it's a real step up from a greenway. Place you can bring your whole family. It doesn't close, which is awesome. And it's got a real challenging, scary feature to keep you up at night, just to keep things interesting. But overall, a real flow trail that's doable. So, till next time.